Good evening, Earth. This is Adam Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion, Taos, New Mexico, working on oil painting sundial. Alright, tonight on this, I am going to take some alizarin crimson, a little Payne's gray, and some liquid and make a glaze to start shadowing all of the little figures and giving them a little more depth and not realism. They're pretty cartoonish and flat. I just want to sort of de-emphasize the flatness and give them a little more dimension. So, yeah. I'm going to use the ring of fire around the sundial as the light source and just give them all a little back shadowing.
What's the story? And she said, my husband was in the Peace Corps in Fiji. He loves this stuff. And so then I met him and talked to him about it. He said, I'm a chronic alcoholic. I can't touch a drink. I can't touch a drop. But I drink this, and I love it. And I said, well, do you know about crocodilianism? And he said, oh, yes. And he lifted up his shirt and scratched his chest, and a huge cloud of dandruff arose. So sometimes you never know. It's the people I hang out with. Could you ask the mushroom what we should do about George Bush? I have hope for the man. He has such a botanically promising name. The ones that I'm not reading aloud are the ones which seem to go to areas of my concern that I haven't addressed here today, so I don't carry you over into them. This is an important question. What is your view of introducing psychedelics to children and the initiation of children into altered states? This is so controversial, so hot, that other than reading the question, I'm not sure what I could say. At the Bridge Conference at Stanford a few weeks ago, there was a women's panel. Kat was on it, Carolyn Garcia, Cindy Palmer-Horowitz, Nina Gravoy, some of the great psychedelic women. And this is very important to discuss. Some of you may have read On John by Robert Bly, where he makes a tremendous case that fathers should provide initiatory experiences for their children. And, you know, we're not talking an overnight trout fishing trip here, folks. I think this definitely needs to be discussed. I'd be more comfortable with women discussing it because I think women are the caregivers and the child rearers largely. But it's really a problem. I mean, it's a problem for us that we even do these things in a climate of legal intolerance. And then, you know, to put it on to our children, to make criminals of our children. You know, you can lose your children with a stunt like that. This is very touchy, and yet I see it as a First Amendment right. It's a matter of religious conviction. And I don't know. My hope is that someday this religious conviction issue is going to collide right into the psychedelic issue, because I do not see how we can live under a constitution that guarantees life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and say that psychedelic drugs are illegal. And if the pursuit of happiness means anything, it must cover that.
What's up?
Now, I've had constitutional scholars.
Oh, dude, Sunday, huh? Yeah, I'm down. Yeah, sure, sounds great, man.
Wanted it to say life, liberty, and the right to own property.
I just started this, give me 26 minutes.
And Jefferson objected.
How long, what time did you
So they
start?
decided
What
to
time
put
is
in
it?
language that is meaningful.
That's why I was
Oh, it's
So
just
they
4?
settled on
Yeah.
the pursuit of
I don't know, man.
happiness.
Anytime's
But
starting
I
to
say,
get
let's
cloudy
take
and cool,
that
though, maybe 4:35.
language
It's
from
gonna
the
get cloudy and cool.
Constitution
Well, it kinda
and
is
turn it
already.
into the greatest
If it
social
gets cloudy,
revolution
you'll
that's
stay
ever
warm.
been seen.
Okay. Well, about 5.
Children and
Sound good?
psychedelics.
Alright, that'll give you time to wrap this up and post it and whatnot.
We can go whenever.
Cool.
And here's a technical question. that
I didn't know if you
is
were even here.
about mushrooms.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna
You
do
should
garage
spare the
tomorrow,
rest of you.
unless I get word from Mark that he's getting a
All
trailer
three
up
explanations
tomorrow
of the
to help
types
with
are
trash.
interesting, but our
But
interpretations
that looks like
of
it's in the air as far as
what
when he's
if
gonna be
your
able to put the
types
trailer down here.
are
So I'm
contemplations
just gonna
which are
plan on the garage
becoming as
tomorrow.
diversely as they
So
see
I still gotta call
themselves.
the
The
mechanic, I gotta do my
self-reflection
laundry.
of intelligence
I gotta call the net
contains all
folks.
forms.
Sounds like you got a busy
Correct.
day.
Yeah,
But
tomorrow's
then
gonna
why
be like
these
stuff.
forms, and why so persistently? You know, to
I still wanna
anybody who
get some painting
says
done, so I
something
think I
is
can finish that,
everything, devolves
seat,
the obligation of
the
explaining
eyes
why
and
it
the dress
appears
painting
to be
tomorrow. I think I
specifically
can finish that.
something. And I've taken lots of psychedelic compounds, and I don't get types anywhere else. I think this is somehow specific to the beast. Well, this is more a statement than a question. Quantum mechanics, especially the Schrodinger's cat experiment, show that we are simultaneously dead and alive, rather like a Kikuli resonant structure of the two. DMT creatures are consistent with contemporary science. This is true. I mean, language is what divides, but what is divided is not divided. It simply is appears divided through the convention of language. I'm real
Adeline's fully
uncomfortable
recovered
with this
from her mouse
death and
swallowing
DMT
incident.
issue because I don't know
Oh, she had a
what,
mouse
what
swallowing?
to do with
Yeah,
it. It's
either
a little-
that or
I
it was
like
the
to
gnarliest
find it,
hairball
but
I've ever
even
seen in my
that seemed
life,
like
dude.
deeper water than
But
I
whatever it was, it corked her
wanted
up
to
and
get
she
into.
exploded.
How
3
does
or 4
Ibogaine
nights
relate
ago, it was
to
like a
MDMA
fucking water
and opening
balloon
of the
of
heart?
the nastiest vomit you'd ever
Oh,
seen.
this is a
Where?
funny
When was this?
thing
Oh,
about
just a few days ago.
compounds.
Oh,
But the day after, she was sick as hell. I was a little worried about
Most
her.
drugs,
But she's back to her
after
crazy
their
self.
discovery, in the process of entering general
It
awareness,
may have just been the worst hairball.
undergo a
cat
phase
history.
in which they are
But
the
I think
love
she
drug.
fucking straight swallowed a
This
little mouse.
happens. Marijuana has been the love drug. LSD has been the love drug.
She's probably not a good day for the mouse or
Psilocybin
her.
has been the love drug. A slightly different kind of love, but cocaine has been called the love drug. MDMA is called a heart-opening drug, and Ibogaine, as I talked about, and then I've had tremendous heart openings on other things not related to this.
This is the
And
purple
even
freak.
DMT
First of the purple
sends you
freak.
down with an huge
Not the purple
perception
cake.
and
Not to be
appreciation
confused
of
with
what a
purple cake.
wonderful thing it is
The
to be
purple cake is
alive.
beautiful.
It's
okay, too.
MDMA doesn't relate to
It
Ibogaine at
crumbles
all.
nicely and
I think this
it smokes
opening of the
beautifully.
heart
This is what I'm, it
is
was
something
growing
that
right
many
next
drugs make
over here.
possible, and we just
It's
need
like
to
the
give
first one
ourselves
process. It
permission
finally
to
is
do
getting
it.
its
The
flavor.
great power of MDMA
Yes,
is in
looks like it's
what's
got
called
some THC in
directed
it, too.
psychotherapy,
No, that's good,
where a
man.
therapist
Tastes
helps
nice.
you sort out your problems.
That's pretty stony.
But we haven't seen,
Shit,
nor
that's
are
just
we
the long one. The
likely
big
to
ones
see
are
any
fucking-
comparison studies
they're
of
gonna
how
be a pound
well
a piece, I
MDMA
hope.
stacks
Oh,
up
that's
against
wonderful.
LSD or psilocybin or
It won't be
mescaline.
that much.
I
You know,
There'll
be more of these little piddly-ass things over here.
Yeah, a couple of them are pretty small, but the butts just still look
like
pretty
how
nice.
it sort of
Yeah,
stays
the
on
buds
the
are-
surface. No titanic hallucinations, no
Yeah, the
visitation
THC
by
is definitely
flying
there.
saucers, just an
Yeah,
acute
we have
awareness
the
of what
greenhouse
schmuck
and
you
just
may have
looking at
been.
those yesterday.
Well, other people want this deep material, want the dreamlike mythological stuff to be brought up. So that's sort of a matter of fadism. I think that any drug that you're unfamiliar with may well open your heart just in poking around. Opening the heart is an act of attention in a state of unusual psychic dynamics. And the unusual psychic dynamics part can be provided by numerous substances. How rich in psychedelics are the Caribbean islands, especially Haiti and the Dominican Republic? there are psychedelic plants in the Caribbean islands. There are the mushrooms, certainly, and there are these Anaganthera trees, the source of the Niopo snuffs, and there are daturas. There is also a fairly highly evolved folk medicine in some of those areas. If some of you are ethnobotanists or aspiring ethnobotanists, but you have language difficulty, think about some of the English-speaking islands of the Caribbean, or think about Belize. Belize is a fascinating cultural area. The three language groups of Belize are English, Spanish, and Mayan. And it's not at all unusual to meet someone who speaks Mayan and English. And that's what you're looking for, because then your informant, you can actually form a real relationship there. So there are many interesting plants in the Neotropics, including the Caribbean islands. Pardon me? Frogs. I don't know about Caribbean frogs, but since you raised this question, they're not frogs, first of all, they're toads. We don't want the toads to feel left out. This is a phenomenon that's arisen in the past few years. Some of you may know of it, but these large toads, Bufo alveolus toads, you can capture them out in the American Southwest at a certain time of year and take them back to your four-wheel drive vehicle and put pressure on the glands on the back of their neck and get them to squirt out 5-MeO-DMT.
What? I didn't hear you.
There's one that Dennis talks about, one that he's about to talk about too, that's been researched a little more, where they scrape the poison, it sounds like a poison dart frog of some kind, and they take a knife and just edge off the oil on its skin, and then they burn a hole in their arm, and then pack the hole with the poison, and it causes an entire system shut down. You just like go dead for a minute. You just collapse. And I don't know what the fuck the trip could be like.
It kills you?
No, you're fine, but it's like an ordeal poison of some kind. You come back out of it, but just the method of administration sounds really painful.
Yeah, well, I mean, who came up with that?
I don't know, man. It's some kind of tribal
You got a hole in your arm, you
ritual or
want the hole in the arm
something.
tribe?
Right, but how do they even come up with this shit? Like, you accidentally burn a hole in yourself with a cigarette and rub the frog on it at some point or something? I mean, what the fuck? But, and it doesn't sound like it's a fun trip. It sounds absolutely horrible, like an ordeal poisoning. But it's something done. It's super crazy. That one and the dreamfish sound pretty wild to me.
This is, pardon me?
But the dreamfish is at least a psychedelic. You know, you have hallucinations. They might be demonic and scary, but at least it's a trip.
Is that the Matisse word?
It's like not just falling down into
Well,
a state
this
of a
is all
coma or
Peter
something.
Gorman's field
Yeah.
work.
It's 20 minutes.
Well, I
And
mean, the
I
mind has
respect
to go
Peter
somewhere,
Gorman. He's
doesn't
not the
Right.
personal
So
friend
it
of mine
might be
because I
like a
haven't spent that
really
much time with
extravagant
him.
mental trip
But he
that
seems to know
unfolds
more
when you go
about this
comatose
than
with this
anybody
stuff.
else. He's
But-
the only
I mean, the mind
black
would go
person to
dimensional,
have any
interdimensional.
information.
Yeah, it might be like
about
the
it.
DMT state,
His
like a death trip, or
account is
who
that
knows?
these extremely
But it's pretty wild.
uncontacted people in the Amazon have a tree frog which exudes something on its belly, and they take a burning stick
Here it is.
and burn a hole into the muscle of the upper arm, just like you would take a cigarette and burn a hole into your arm, and then they pack this hole with this material from the underbelly of this frog, and then a spectacular trip results. But this is
Spectacular.
entirely...
Well, that's what he says, and this was in the early 90s.
Did he do it?
No, I don't think he's done it.
This is what we all
And this
want
was
to do.
that was
Go
from
off
information
and
back in the
find
early
a powerful
90s.
outstanding
Dennis
that
is
nobody
that
else
ethnobotanical
knows anything
searcher
about.
of psychoactive plants
bring it back.
seminar
So
was
that's the
2018,
case of
and there's some
that.
pretty current information on it in that. And it does not sound
Here's a
spectacular, it sounds
question, not
horrendous.
terribly relevant, but I like talking about
Yeah.
my friends. Can you talk a little about your
Like
association
maybe
with Rupert
Datura or
Sheldrake?
something, you know?
Rupert is a good friend of mine. He and Ralph Abraham and I are writing a book together. He's the morphogenetic field man, and this is an alternative hypothesis to the scientific hypothesis. one way of thinking about psychedelics, and I didn't mention it because I didn't want to have to sketch you Sheldrake's cosmology, but since the question was asked, one way of thinking about psychedelics is they amplify the morphogenetic field. We see then what connects whatever you're looking at, then you see what is connected, because the morphogenetic field, which is there all the time, but which is sort of mitigated against by our language habits, becomes suddenly visible. And then my time wave, which I've strictly avoided talking about today, is an effort on my part to actually write an equation for the Sheldrakean morphogenetic field. And you see, Rupert's idea is not that powerful until somebody can walk to a blackboard and write equations for the morphogenetic field. Until that's done, he's in the position that James Clerk Maxwell was in vis-a-vis the electromagnetic field, until somebody then, James Clerk Maxwell in this case, figured out the inverse square law and what the constraints were, and then wrote the equations of electromagnetic radiation. Could you elaborate further on the nature of MAO inhibitors? I will, since I mentioned it and it's worth understanding. It's that monoamines are these simple chemical compounds that are very active in biological systems, including all the drugs we've been talking about and many drugs we haven't mentioned. These are all monoamines.
Well, this is like a survey course he does just about all psychedelics across the
a system in the body called monoamine oxidase. The ACE on the end of a word indicates you're dealing with an enzyme, transcriptase. But this is monoamine oxidase. It oxidizes monoamines. It makes them harmless byproducts. So if you take a drug, one of these monoamines, it is monoamine oxidase that will render it harmless and shunt it to your urine.
You ever tried San Pedro?
But there are what are called monoamine oxidase inhibitors.
I've got some mescaline.
And that means that if you take the MAO inhibitor,
does it get
now
old?
the monoamine oxidase
I don't know how
can't
quickly it
destroy
degrades
the
or what you got to keep
monoamine,
it in to get it
and the
stored.
monoamines accumulate, and you get high.
I don't know.
That's what
It's a
happens.
powder.
And sometimes monoamine
What, the guy,
accumulation can
the
be
guy that makes it, he has a bunch of San
self-generated
Pedro and he
toxic
boils
state,
it.
where for
And
some
then
reason
slowly
toxic
reduces
byproducts
it
aren't
till it's just this
breaking down.
black
Then they will give
paste.
you
Oh,
monoamine
wow.
oxidase
And then he
to
spreads that out
oxidize
and
these
it
products
dries and
away.
chops it up.
But it's a
I mean, this
reasonable
comes
strategy to
a
try
powder.
and jam the
That's amazing.
monoamine oxidase machinery.
I'd like to try it, man,
to
but it takes a
allow
lot of it to
and
really get to
exogenously
trip
introduce
levels with that stuff.
monoamine
Yeah, it's not good for your liver
accumulate
to
to
get that high,
intoxicating levels.
that-
So it's just a
So it's like,
pharmacological strategy.
it's an enhancer kind
For more small
But I just
dosing.
For
want
other
to
stuff,
obtain
you know.
high quality cubensis.
Well, that was the old
sports
school trip
or
was
cultures.
I think it was 300
Well, I
mics
mentioned my
LSD
brother
and
and I
then
wrote a book on growing
some
psilocybin
milligrams,
mushrooms.
maybe
You can
two
order it
or
out at
300
catalogs
milligrams
that
of
are
the,
from
That's
friends.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
an ad
Because
in the
it's
back of
alone,
that book
supposedly
for
it's like
high-quality
700
supplements,
milligrams
and a
is
company
the,
called Syzygy
you know,
will send you a
base,
little
like,
plate
5
of
gram
glass
dose
with more spore
of mushrooms
prints on it,
comparably.
and there are people
but that's a lot of
in North
powder.
America.
Even I don't know how pure that San Pedro powder would be.
Are North American cubensis mushrooms, do they have lower
He's been making it for a
potency?
while.
And can this be overcome by selective
That's cool.
breeding?
I don't know.
I might have to try
Yeah.
that.
Selective breeding of mushrooms is an
You see these
excruciating
people doing,
task. First of all, you
making
have
the
to be able
medicine and
to
stuff,
work
and you
with
think they
a
have the knowledge.
microscope
Yeah.
powerful
I
enough
don't know
that
what the
you
hell they're
can
doing.
push
And
one
yeah, just
spore
like,
against
it takes
another,
trial and
keeping a
error.
third
Yeah.
spore out of the picture.
It takes,
What people call breeding.
I mean, he showed
is
me
where
that he
you
can grow
inoculate to a
good wheat,
plate
he
two
showed me he could
separate
grow a
strains,
lot of
and where
wheat.
the two growing
But I think
edges
he had
meet,
help,
you cut a
you know.
square out of
When
that
he gets off by
and
himself, he
oxidize
just
it
can't
and then
seem to keep it
re-inoculate. But
together.
that's not really
I
selective
went down
breeding.
there a
Are North
couple weeks
American
ago, and
cubensis
it
mushrooms
was
lower in potency?
it
Yes,
was a
they
fucking
are.
shit show.
Apparently,
Oh, wow.
equatorial heat has
where he
something
should
to do
have
with
like
the
200 or
production
300
of
pounds,
psilocybin.
you know, coming
say
up. He's
something
got
about
50
San
or
Pedro
60.
cactus as
And
a
half of those are
psychedelic
falling
agent,
over, and he
which is
doesn't
one
even
of the
take the
ones
time
that sort of got
tie 'em
left
back
out
up,
of the
stay
survey
on.
this morning because I was ripping right along.
Oh,
This
the
is
guy
a
that's
very
getting
Just a
large
fucking pound of pot
columnar
laying on the ground
cactus
there.
that grows
Oh,
on the
jeez.
northeast coast of Peru and
And
contains
I think
mescaline,
he's
just
lost
like
touch
the
with
peyote
the
cactus.
medicine
And
itself.
it has
you
been
know.
used for a long, long
When
time.
you
We have
grow
pottery
200
out of
pounds one year,
Peru,
it's like, fuck.
3,000.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of plants.
Third millennium BC
Well,
of
there's a
this
couple hundred plants.
of this
Yeah.
San
You know, if you're
Pedro
doing it right,
cactus. And it's a very powerful
You could do it
shamanic
with 100
agent.
plants if you're doing it really good.
Yeah.
And that's where the level he's trying
Marion
to get to,
Woodman,
but he's got a
who
lot
I
of
just
shit.
spoke to recently, has
dragging
stated one of the
back
most noteworthy
because he
archetypes to surface
guys
in
teeth
recent
across his
Malsain's
eyes.
dreams is the Black Madonna, a blending of mother and whore energies. Would you comment on this in the light
Is that
of your
Bufo
psychedelic
Toad?
experiences
No, he's just a
and the
frog.
reemergent
Just a
of the
happy frog.
feminine energy?
Happy
Well, I
Happy
think
frog.
the goddess is on the move. The goddess is.
Alright, oh shit, I'm gonna run my time.
This archetype
That's what I
is
meant.
drawing
I'm gonna finish the
energy
cigarette
with
and go,
a
start
fury
dinner. All right,
that
man.
has not
Just clean
been
my kitchen,
seen
so-
since
All right,
the
Mr.
end
I can
of
actually
Court of Eleanor Rothstein.
Word.
And
Yeah, dude, I'll bring ketchup. I don't have any more root beer. I should have got
it's a
some.
There's still 2 root beers down there.
Oh, word.
of deity that is going
I haven't
on
drank
at
it, but-
every level. And
Once I've learned something
certainly
about
on
sugar
psychedelics,
and
you
carbonated
have
water when they're
immense
infused together,
moving
like
Yeah.
in a soda.
experiences
How-
of the
how-
goddess if you invoke
It's not
the
good for you
goddess
at all.
Yeah,
in
dude.
that
It's
situation.
fucking awful.
You can confront
I
it.
had a
This is
good
all
lesson
part
at that
of this
one night, man, back in high
archaic
school. I
return.
passed out
Happening
on my
many
desk one
levels.
night, knocked the soda
And,
over, and it spilled
imaging
splattered on the
the supreme
calculator.
power of
And like the next
universe
day, it
as
melted it.
feminine, boundaries,
It was like acid.
Well, we used to take
it's
fucking
very
pennies and put them in Coca-Cola
Let me
and
say
they
just a
just
bit
be
about
fucking
gender
just
politics.
like
Oh.
a
Sometimes
day
people
was minute. It
think
was
I
like,
have
oh
no
my
use for
god.
men.
Nuts. Alright, well that's Adam Sturch broadcasting from the Mushroom Mansion, Taos, New Mexico, working on oil painting sundial. Getting some of the shadows laid in, and next step will be taking some blue light and light blue light and emanating it in a soft edge from around the central fire around the dial. But that's it for the moment. So have a good night, Earth. Thanks for watching.